Tabitha Ackert remembers feeling so wronged when the man who murdered her daughter Mackenzie was sentenced to just 15 years jail. How was this pathetic sentence right in anyone's mind? 2 words: domestic violence. Tabitha knew her daughter's life was worth more and vowed to make a change. Well, 1,301 days since Mackenzie's death, she has, and joins me now. Tabitha, because of you, DV killers in New South Wales will be locked up for a minimum 25 years. You did this.
I'd like to think it was a huge community effort, actually. So many people who I didn't know marched in the streets in protests that we held after sentencing, who signed a petition. We got 110,000 signatures on our petition. People shared it. People sent me messages of encouragement. And so I really like to think this is a community win, and this shows that a community can band together and say, this is unacceptable and this is not what we want as a community.
And just to put it in perspective, murder carries a non-parole of 20. I mean, this sends a really powerful message, Tabitha.
It does. I have to say I'm so thankful to Premier Minns and the whole Labor, his whole, department. What they've said today is that women's lives matter, and that's really important, because after we had the sentencing and we lost the appeal, it was heartbreaking to see so many women message me, email me, send me messages on social media, on LinkedIn, and say, I feel worthless and I feel like the government doesn't care about me. And that hurt to hear so many women feel so helpless like that. And I think the message that the Labor government sent today is, you do matter, and we do care about what's happening to you, and we want to make a change. And I think that's a really important message to send.
And look, the details of Mackenzie's murder, they are really hard to hear, but they're also so important because her ex, Tyrone Thompson, was only just out of jail for previous DV assaults on your daughter. So he was on parole when he broke into her home as she slept, stabbing her 78 times. She deserved to be safe, Tabitha, but she wasn't.
We should all be safe in our homes, and he broke that AVO that we're aware of at least 8 times in the 2 weeks that he was released. And during his sentencing, he received 0 time for those breaches in AVOs as well.
I mean, that in itself is a disgrace, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. And what I think was even more shocking is when I started researching domestic violence murders, I started researching before our sentencing to try and get an idea of what we might get. And then I really dug deep afterwards. I thought, we've been treated so horrifically by the justice system. But what I found out was we were the norm. And that's what happened with our appeal. We lost the appeal. And Justice Bell said, while he didn't agree with the sentence, this is the standard of sentencing in New South Wales, so therefore he can't change it. And it was that moment that I realised, well, it'll never get better. And my daughter's case could be used as case law to get violent offenders off earlier. This was described as one of the worst DV murders that Australia has seen, and he got 15 years for a non-parole. So what's going to happen to someone that's less violent? They're all violent, but this means that they would say, I should have less. And I just felt like the sentencing was going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was very lucky that a lot of ministers opened their door to me to come in and talk. And the Premier has always been very generous with his time with me, and he's let me come in. I made a document. I explained why we wanted to make this legislation change. I had all the signatures, had pictures from our marches. And it's amazing that this got voted unanimously in Cabinet this week. There wasn't one person that voted against it.
And that says so much too, doesn't it? Because, I mean, the fact that you had so many people, women, reach out to you to saying, I feel helpless, I don't feel seen, I'm scared of what's going to happen after what happened with Mackenzie. The fact that the politicians are finally answering, and by doing this, they now hold the courts to account, or the courts then are able to use that as their new standard. It is only going to be in New South Wales at this point, but are you hoping that that's going to snowball and that every other state and territory will jump on board very quickly?
I really hope so. We saw this with coercive control laws. You know, Queensland adopted it first and we followed and other states have followed. And I really hope that we see this a national law where we see some change and we say across Australia, we care about what's happening in these intimate partner violence murders. Definitely all the premiers across Australia are going to start hearing from me. It's definitely one of the next things on my list to try and make this a nationwide law change.
Yeah, and you did this for your daughter and you also did it for her son.
Yeah, you know, it's been devastating. You know, nothing will really compare to 2022 when she was murdered and finding that out. But this year's been a hard year. It's been hit after hit. It's felt like loss after loss and just being pushed back down again constantly. And this feels like a win. I knew it wouldn't change our case. I knew that I would never get a change in my case once we lost the appeal. But I did this for other families and other women. But also, I don't want my daughter's legacy to be that violent offenders get off earlier. I'd prefer this legacy to be that we've created a safer environment for women.
Well, you know, Tabitha, you and I have both heard it from many victims who say their violent partners taunt them with this, I could kill you and I'll be out in a few years. And what this says with what you've done is, nah, you're going to rot in jail for a long time.
Yeah, I think this says it won't solve all the problems, but it will. But it's a very important piece of the puzzle. And, you know, I truly believe in preventative measures where we actually prevent this trauma from happening. That is the number one key. But we have to look at sentencing and there has to be real punishment when you take someone's life. And currently, the current court and justice system doesn't take how the people left behind into account.
Well, let's hope this is just the start, and well done for fighting so hard. Thank you so much, Tabitha. And if you or someone you know is experiencing sexual abuse or family violence, there is help. Call 1-800-RESPECT. That's 1-800-737-732.